Let me read to you a passage from the 17th chapter of St. Luke's Gospel, verses 1 to 6. It's the Gospel for Monday of the 32nd week in Ordinary Time, Year 2. In it, our Lord speaks of leading others into sin. St. Luke writes, Jesus said to his disciples, "Things that cause sin will inevitably occur, but woe to the one through whom they occur. It would be better for him if a millstone were put around his neck and he be thrown into the sea, than for him to cause one of these little ones to sin. Be on your guard. If your brother sins, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him. And if he wrongs you 7 times in one day, and returns to you 7 times saying, 'I am sorry,' you should forgive him." And the apostles said to the Lord, "Increase our faith." The Lord replied, "If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you would say to this mulberry tree, 'Be uprooted and planted in the sea,' and it would obey you." That's from Luke chapter 17, verses 1 to 6. What does it suggest to us? Well, I remember how at the beginning of my studies for the priesthood, the priest who had charge of the formation of those in their first year of studies repeatedly insisted on the power and influence of human respect. By this he meant that the approval or disapproval of those around us has a powerful effect on our behavior unless we place ourselves on guard. In a properly functioning society or community, this approval or disapproval is a major support for good order and proper standards of behavior. But it is also a major influence for evil. If an individual means to aim high in his personal standards, the disapproval of those around him can break down his resolve and lead him astray unless he is on guard. What we are speaking of here is bad example and good example, bad influence and good influence. A parent can be a good influence on his or her child, and alternatively, that parent can be a bad influence. The spiritual masters call this factor the world, as opposed to the influence coming from one's own inclinations and preferences. The world, consisting of the other person or other people in our life, has an influence on us for good or ill. The example and behavior of others, as well as their words and arguments, are a powerful pressure on us for good or for bad. At the dawn of human history, we see this factor at play in the drama of the original human decisions. God made it clear to our first parents that they were not to partake of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That was God's command. Then there entered Satan as a principal influence in the direction of sin, and Eve sinned. She then went to Adam and influenced him. Satan did not approach Adam, Eve did. We could look on Eve as the equivalent of the world, the bad influence and example of others that play such a major role in the history of sin from age to age was at work in the very beginning. Our Lord refers to the influence of bad example and the immense responsibility of each person who leads others to sin through it. We read in our passage today, Jesus said to his disciples, "Things that cause sin will inevitably occur, but woe to the one through whom they occur. It would be better for him if a millstone were put round his neck and he be thrown into the sea, than for him to cause one of these little ones to sin. Be on your guard. Apart from bad example, many actually lead and encourage others to sin and to crime. Consider the collusion involved in various forms of fraud. Consider the rampant pornography in many of the media, the print media, movies, the internet. When Pope Paul VI visited Australia at the end of 1970, he addressed a large body of journalists. He told them that they constituted world power number one. He was referring to the influence on others of what is said and written. So as our Lord says, we must be on our guard. We must be on guard lest we lead others directly or indirectly into sin. And we must be very much on guard lest the example and actions of others lead us into sin. Our bad or good example is of the first importance for others, and the example of others is of the first importance to us. All this is to say that none of us goes to heaven or to hell alone. We take others with us, and part of our judgment, the judgment of God on us, will revolve around the harm or the good we have done to others by our bad or good example and the influence it constituted. When in the 25th chapter of the Gospel of St. Matthew, our Lord portrays himself as saying to those on his right and left that whatever they did to the least they did to him, he is surely speaking also of the influence on others that our good or bad example constituted. Let us then be very much alive to our responsibility to lead others to goodness and holiness of life by the example of our actions. The Church needs saints, and the world needs saints too. They are the beacons for mankind of goodness, and they lead by their example and their good works. There is an old saying that evil flourishes when good people are lacking or when good people do nothing. Let us then resolve to overcome evil with good and never to do anything that will lead another into sin.